Hello, bonsai friends. This is Evan Pardue of Underhill Bonsai. Welcome to episode 23 of Little Things for Bonsai People, formerly Bonsai Southeast. And this time I am joined by Carmen Lesko-Viansky, and I nailed it
You
right on
got
the
it
head.
right. I'm
I
really proud of
usually
you.
I usually have such a hard time with her last name, and this is the third time. This is great.
Third time in a row.
Yep. How you doing, Carmen?
I am well. How are you?
Pretty well, pretty well. And today we have a very special guest. We are joined by Jennifer Price. How you doing, Jennifer?
I'm doing great, and you nailed my last name first
Oh,
time. Right
awesome. There's only like one syllable, so I got it. No, yeah, it's been a running gag, but I could talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, before we get too far, I meant to ask you, how you feeling, Jennifer? I'm sorry, I didn't want to just steamroll you like that.
No, you didn't steamroll me at all. I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here with both of you and to talk bonsai, obviously.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we do here. We talk bonsai and we kind of just ramble on about what we like about bonsai. So, but before I get started, I do need to mention that our podcast is sponsored by our amazing patrons off of our Patreon page. We call our patrons our bonsai best buds. And starting the list, we have Tori Solis, Warehouse Rat, Boyd Snellgrove, Ricky Ruins, Joshua Bentley, Snappy Chappers, Ryan Gliardano. He's got a different last name as well. Joel Jenkins, Justin Knight, and Backyard Bonsai Australia. Thank you so much for being best buds and supporting our show. And it still stands. We're just going to keep saying happy birthday to whoever's birthday it is because we forget to keep asking our patrons what their birthdays are. But anyway, if you would like to follow, support, or subscribe to any of our other social media accounts, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram under Evan Pardue or underhillbonsai.com. You can go over and see my articles that I've written. You can also follow Underhill Facebook and Instagram as well. For Carmen, you can go over to the purplepotsociety.org and you can go check out the National Women's Bonsai Club, and you can join for $35 for the year. Amazing price, great content, good resources. And then Carmen's got her handle on Instagram as Becoming Bonsai. For Mike, go check out kitsunebonsai.com. He has online courses and merch that he does. Mike, unfortunately, cannot be with us on this one as well. He is currently in Texas, and he is teaching people bonsai, working his fingers to nubs, just making great little trees with people over there. But if you can't do anything, almost forgot again. Almost forgot Matt. I have to mention Matt every time because he edits our episodes and he's amazing. Our editor, Matt, if you want to go check out Matt, you can go to mattodonnell.com. He is a audio engineer, and he can edit and produce your podcast as well if you like what you're hearing here. He also has Instagram as well, Matt O'Donnell on Instagram. So, but if you can only listen, and that's all you can do for now, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite listening platform, yada, yada. Say it a lot, but it helps. It helps the show grow, and it gets bonsai out to the masses more and more. So thank you guys for listening. So anyway, now that we got through the intro for the 23rd time, how is it going, Jennifer? Tell us what you got going on.
A lot of traveling. I didn't start out thinking I would become a traveling bonsai artist by any stretch of the imagination, but that's kind of what has happened. And let's see, we're end of March. And so I have been in Croatia, Germany, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Florida, Alabama, Texas, where Mike was. And I think, am I forgetting anything? I hope not. And obviously back home.
Yeah.
A lot of traveling for 3 months out of the year so far.
A lot of traveling. Yep, a lot more to go.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Like I had failed to mention that you're from Chicago, Illinois.
Correct.
And and also you have trained and apprenticed under Walter Paul and Ryan Neal. Well, you studied with Ryan Neal.
Right.
And yeah, you do a lot of traveling, and that you're coming to do the ABS learning seminar in Denver. Colorado.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you'll be a
Larry,
featured artist there.
Larry Jackal, the curator there, is, I think, hosting, and the Denver Botanical Gardens will be hosting that in June. So that would be a lot of fun. And then, a lot more travel after that and a little bit before that too. So,
Hmm. Yep. And you had mentioned as well that you were down in New Orleans recently. I definitely saw you there. So, yep. Seeing you there. And then I think the first time we ran into each other, we were at the Texas show.
mhm. Yep.
But I think one of the other times I spotted you was actually at Nationals, but I didn't know you well enough to walk up and just say hey. But that was 2 years ago, I think now.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I don't know. I think as bonsai artists, we should always be able to walk up and say, like, hey, how are you? What have you got going on? What, right? I mean, there shouldn't be any egos in bonsai.
No, no. It wasn't an ego thing. It's just
No, I
it's
know that.
it's not the easiest thing to just walk up and be like, hey, I've
That's
seen
true.
you online. That's just kind of weird to go about it that way. But
That's true. Yeah.
yeah, awesome. So, Jennifer, how did you get into bonsai? I think is that something that you normally talk about a lot?
I mean, I get asked it quite a bit, so I suppose so. I don't mind talking about it. I was a
Hmm.
professional ballerina, and in that career, there's tons and tons of injuries really early on that you don't expect. 30 seems like it's like forever when you're 19, 20 years old. And so I was injured, and the ballet company I was dancing with was actually in Paris, and we were, I had fallen, I was on stage, I was really injured, and they took me to see a bonsai show, and it was on Literati bonsai design. And at that point, I was really struck by, kind of the line and the form. And it wasn't until, I came home, I rehabbed a bit, kept dancing, didn't really work. And then later on, I kind of went back and rediscovered bonsai and thought, it reminds me of how the human body can move, and, another art form to express myself in. So I sort of delved in and really went down that rabbit hole pretty far. And somehow I became a bonsai artist.
Hmm. So,
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I knew that you had done dance before you got into bonsai, but I wasn't sure where that little bridge piece was from when you stopped dancing to when you started doing bonsai. So, yeah, that's really interesting.
I think the link of like having a little bit of depression probably pretty early on, being so intense, in such a competitive career, and then having that career cut so short, and then trying to find your voice as an artist, and seeing bonsai, it's an art form, definitely in a different medium, but a really cool one.
Mm-hmm. Do you still dance at all? Sorry, I'm curious.
No, you know what? I get asked that a lot. And it's funny because like what my mind thinks it will do is not what my body will do anymore. So no. I thought about going back, but no.
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that I didn't really know. I knew that you were a ballerina formerly, but how long did you say you had done it before?
13 years.
13
so
years.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So long time since I was very little.
That's awesome though. And if you don't mind me asking, how you got over into Paris? I don't know anything about the world of ballerina.
Oh, literally, I was with a ballet company that toured. So, they take you around the world and you see pretty much, the airport, the theater, the hotel room, back home. So, it's the traveling life of a dancer. You perform quite a bit. So some ways a little bit like bonsai, where you see.
I was going to say, you see the airport and you see your hotel and you see wherever the convention is or the workshop is, and then you're back home.
Right. Yeah. Carmen, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
How do you like being in Portland? How do you like, being out there and working with Michael Hagedorn, who's a fabulous artist? And, I'm curious, just as one friend to another, are you enjoying your time out there?
I am. Yeah. It's a lot of work. Having come from the botanical garden where I was kind of curating that collection and had other folks kind of supporting the collection with watering and whatever. And then kind of going into this whole apprenticeship where I'm the primary caretaker of everything all the time. It was a little bit more than I think I had expected, but I'm having a great time. Michael actually just asked me the other day if my feelings toward bonsai had changed at all over the last 2 years. And I just said that I like it better now. So
Wow, that's
so
wonderful.
it's one of those things where even on, my quote days off, unquote, because I'm still here to water, it's like, well, sometimes I go out there and I'm like, oh, well, I could really do some trimming right now or whatever. So it gets a little long in the summertime when there's so much watering, but the rest of the year when there's more styling and trimming and all that stuff, it's really, really fun. So
The realities of bonsai, right? When we all in the
Yeah.
summer stand around with hoses and water for hours on end.
Mhm. Yep. So you've been coming out to Portland to study a little bit with Ryan. How do you like Portland?
I have. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I have a friend out there, and she and I have been staying together, which has been really fun. Getting to know some people in my class, and of course, seeing Ryan's garden, and the trees are incredible, and the days are long, but well worth
Mhm.
it, and it's been really fun. So you have
Cool.
Michael Hagedorn as a mentor. That has to be
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah, he's really fun to work with. We had one of our students over this morning to help create a stand for another one of the trees that's going into an exhibition later this year. But he gets these, you've seen his work. He gets these creative ideas, and the nice thing about having so many different students with so many different backgrounds is that you can call on them at any time, and they'll want to collaborate with you on some piece of artwork. So we've got a student who's doing some metalworking for us for a couple bonsai stands, and stand. Yeah, I guess you could call him a stand. So yeah, it's been really fun to kind of see that creative process and see how Michael works. And I had studied a little bit with him before I moved all the way out here, so I had an idea of his teaching style, and it's been working really well for me. So
My teacher, Walter Paul, my main teacher, is a huge fan of Michael's. And the first time I actually went out with Walter to visit Michael's garden was really inspirational for me. He has a couple pieces that are really significant. One is, his hemlocks. Obviously, he has, one particular hemlock that really always is in the back of my mind as an artist because it's so naturalistic, and it almost looks like, somebody just took it out of a forest and there it is. And it really takes you to where you would find that, in nature. And Walter and I actually stood in front of that for a really long time. And, at one point I kind of glanced at Walter Paul, and, Walter's character, and he's never at a loss for words. But we stood there for a long time and just sort of looked at each other, and then looked back at, Michael's art, and just kind of went like, wow.
Yeah, the hemlocks are really, really something.
Well, so many pieces were. I'm just thinking of that one.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the things I really love about his style is that it really takes you kind of to where the tree came from. It's not necessarily put into something that you would expect a bonsai to look like. There's a little bit more of a naturalistic flow to it. So that's one of the things I think that definitely drew me to his work in the beginning.
Interestingly enough, too, Michael's a tango dancer.
Yes.
I could relate very much to that, having been a ballet dancer, into his talking about tango with me. So that was a lot of fun.
Well, what a time to be getting into bonsai, right? With all these really artistic endeavors, very what would you say? The word's escaping me, but really going all in on just experimentation, different types of containers, different types of potteries being made right now. Lots and lots of species are kind of being collaborated with different artists and different cultures across the United States, even the world. I've seen some really cool stuff happening. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome to hear all these different influences, different styles coming in, and with Walter, with going over and viewing his collection, I'm sure that's something special too. I mean, he's got hundreds of trees, right?
I would put it maybe thousands. I mean, Yeah, he absolutely loves bonsai. I mean, he pretty much does bonsai 24 hours a day, in Walter's mind, I think, at any rate. um, but it's interesting, having been have had the opportunity to spend so much time in the EU, also to see, what they have over there, and to talk to a lot of the artists over there. And, they really feel like America is on this like upward trajectory.
Mhm.
And where, it used to be like Europe seemed ahead of us. And now I think, with the influence of, Michael Hagedorn and Ryan and Bjorn and, Evan and what everyone is doing, Carmen, I think we're really starting to kind of find our own voice in America. And one thing
Mhm.
I've learned as a traveling artist, having the opportunity, to be able to go like this year to, Alabama and then Florida and then, Houston, and then I'll be in Denver and then I'll be in Pennsylvania. And, to really see the breadth of the scope that America has to offer is unbelievable, in terms of just, to collect the species that we have to offer for bonsai.
Yeah, we're just now starting to tap into the potential of collectible species such as Yamadori stock that could be found, anywhere from the Cascades to the Rockies to even the Blue Ridge Mountains. I mean, everywhere that these awesome trees could exist, we're just now starting to find them.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier. It's a pretty exciting future to be part of. There should be a pretty big shift, and at least in our lifetimes, we should start to see the one of the things that kind of separates us from other bonsai cultures is that you'll see trees that have been in development by artists in their range, and they're exceeding 100 plus years, 200 plus years. Japan, of course, you got the ones that are 400 plus. In America here, we're going to get to that point where the trees that have been developed from stock, from seed, collected Yamadori, we're going to, in our lifetime, going to see the ones that hit that, that 100-year mark and see what real good American bonsai could be,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an amazing time to see all that. So with all the species that you worked with, Jennifer, I'm interested. I know there's probably too many to list off, but what are some highlights as far as species that you've had the privilege to work with on your travels?
Well, some of it is zone envy.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I get that every time I
like
just
when,
fly a short distance to Portland. I'm always like, oh.
yeah. I mean, so, here in Chicago, I mean, I can have, really killer Rocky Mountain junipers and lodgepole and limber pine. We can do maples, obviously, beech, tremendous amount of deciduous. Tropicals are more of a challenge. I mean, when I was down and had the opportunity to spend some time with Mary Madison, before she passed away, I mean, her buttonwoods to me are so inspirational. And I really love tropicals. And I think up here in the Midwest region, or even, up into the East Coast, it gets more challenging for people to do tropicals. And so, I think in certain parts of the country, they don't get as much credit as they deserve. But it's, without sounding corny, you kind of fall in love with the tree that you're working on. And I've had some great opportunity to work with phenomenal materials, certainly out at Bonsai Mirai. So it's hard to pick like a favorite. I mean, I think I am partial. I have actually a really old hemlock that I have in my own collection that I love. I really do like Rocky Mountain junipers. I really want to focus for myself as an artist, because I am an American, on our American species, and, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese and everything, that they're doing and their culture. And, having been to Japan and to see Kokofu was incredible. But I think for myself, what I want to focus on is, American bonsai.
Okay.
I think
So,
that I can
okay, go
totally
ahead.
relate when you say that you fall in love with the tree that you're working on. Because whenever anybody asks me, what's your favorite species to work on? I'm like, it really just depends whatever I'm working on at that moment. It becomes my favorite just because you're learning new things and you're trying, it's so hard to pick.
You're trying to listen to the tree, right? And to
Yeah.
learn from what the tree is telling you, but it is so hard to pick because
Mhm.
they all do have their own wonderful characteristics. So how do you nail it down to like, these are my three top, favorites? I
Mhm.
don't, because And again, when you travel and then you go to see people's collections and you see, just these breathtaking trees, and you're like, wow, it's really amazing what our country does have to offer.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. You're wanting to focus more on some of the North American natives. I hear a lot of that coming out of some of the newer bonsai artists, or the like our generation of bonsai artists. They're really starting to kind of narrow in on some of those natives, and I think there's, like I think we've said already, there's so much potential there, and it's going to be really cool to see what we can do.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who does bonsai in Iowa. And
Cool.
whenever I say that to people, they're like, they do bonsai in Iowa? Yes, actually, they do. And she's doing some really cool things where, we were looking for unusual containers and getting back to like Michael Hagedorn's hemlock, right, that he has. We were trying to find a container, and you know how you can never have like the right pot.
Oh, yeah.
Or anything. So she actually had a gray oak. And we were trying to figure out, would the leaves reduce? What do we want to do with this tree? And it's a tall tree. It's really beautiful. And we wanted a very naturalistic setting. And so we said, you know what, let's go to the timberline, like where the cows are. And we found this like really old, long piece of kind of irregular wood. And we put the tree, on wood, and it's absolutely breathtaking. So I think it's fun, to use what we have available, kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wanted to ask, you have a hemlock in Chicago. Does it do okay? Because I'm thinking, if I move back to Michigan and I have a hemlock, is it going to survive?
Yeah. So, what, mine is actually Canadian, the one that I have. I asked Ryan Neal about mountain hemlock because I wasn't sure. And his answer was pretty much, and I quote, "Of course, Jennifer, why couldn't you do that? What are you talking about?" So, I'm going to try it. The problem is I haven't found one yet that is reasonable, that I don't want to take a really, really good, expensive specimen and then, see how it does for me.
Right.
So I'm trying to find, something that is within my price range that I can experiment with.
Yeah.
But yes, I think you should be able to,
Yeah, that was my thinking. The only thing I've heard is that sometimes the humidity over the summertime at night, I think is what I've heard could be the issue. But I want to try anyway, because I feel like we got to be able to do it. We got to be able to figure it out. So
right. He did mention a couple students of his actually too that lived, up in our area in the Midwest that did have them. And so yes, I think it is doable. It
could work. Excellent. Wonderful.
Yeah. And I do, when you travel, you do see a lot of people, like when I'm in, Alabama, they wanted to do larch. And I'm like, I don't, that's not going to work, so there are things that, and I've tried to do buttonwoods and I can make it work. Although realistically, does it thrive versus just survive? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's something special about buttonwoods that can only be a look that can only be generated in really hot, humid environments. And I've seen, I haven't really seen evidence, but I've had people purchase trees from me and claim that they're growing their buttonwoods in a basement with really intense lighting, good UV lighting, and good heat. And I can believe that. There's other people growing other things around, but it's just the effect that those buttonwoods have. I mean, the heat and humidity has on them. You don't get that dense growth habit. You don't get the leaf reduction. You don't get the mature branching built in a healthy, efficient way, I feel like. And I mean, I'm thinking about buttonwoods right now because I do have one of my own Mary Madison buttonwoods that I'm starting to really work into mature branching. And I'm going to choose a pot for it this year. And I really do adore the buttonwoods. But yeah, the larch, you were just saying, you guys are over here saying how mountain hemlocks and larch and stuff. You're like, you're just right on the edge. I'm like, man, I'm over here in Louisiana just feeling it, feeling the envy, you just
need a chest freezer. Just get a chest freezer and a small larch, and then you just stick it in there in the winter and you'll be fine.
That's
Well, you got a heck of a bald cypress picture behind you, so I'm not feeling too sorry for you there.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you know.
Our range is great for the tropicals and for the cypresses and the other deciduous things, but every once in a while you just want a good conifer,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and not just the regular Chimpaku without good features on it, as far as deadwood features, or just a green mound juniper, but give and take. I mean, the buttonwood is kind of like our Yamadori juniper in a way. It has a good quality twisted deadwood. That's actually old to some extent. Really don't know how old they are because buttonwoods are unique in that aspect where they're just beaten the crap by hurricanes and twisted and they're rolling around on the beach.
Evan, how easy are they to collect? I haven't had that experience yet. I'm gonna go bald cypress collecting soon, but I was wondering about buttonwoods. Are they challenging? Are they
Well, that's a Mike Lane question because they're not close enough to my range where I could go collect them.
okay?
Yeah, I have a lot of experience working with them and repotting them and pretty much keeping them happy over here. But from what I've heard, it is similar to bald cypress collection in a way where um, supposedly if you find a honey hole spot, that's what my buddy Dawn calls it, her honey hole. If you find
I know
a
Dawn
honey
very
hole,
well.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Dawn's awesome. But if you find a spot where there's good picking, if you just know how to cut the roots in just the right way, they're actually very, very collectible. They're not something weird like a Rocky Mountain juniper or 1C juniper has to be unscrewed out of a rock crevice or something. Because it's just sand.
I had I
Yeah.
had a really funny experience with Mary Madison. So, she was in hospice and it was really hard and it was her last show. And I was, helping her set up her tree for display. And the organizers came and asked me if I would do it for Mary, and then Mary would come and she would check it out. And then we would go to, get something to eat, she and I. And I said, sure. So I agonized over this. I mean, it was her very last one in the show. And I was like, and I changed her accent because I didn't like the accent that it was with. And I was like, is she going to be upset? And then I changed, the diaza that was under the accent, and I rotated the tree around, and I thought it looked good. And I had like 18 people come and look at it. And I wasn't stressed out the whole weekend except for Mary looking at this tree with this. So she comes in, they wheel her in, and she takes one look at it and goes, oh, I don't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then she changed it all back to the way she had it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looked over at me and she was like, are you ready to go to get something to eat? She's like, I don't know who did this to my tree, but oh, well. It was so funny because it was like, how artists are so individual, how they see things.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't offended in the least, but it was just a cute moment and everybody just stood around and said nothing. I didn't know if I should say, Murray, it was me. The artist for this show who changed your whole display around. So anyway, it was a funny moment.
Funny. I love that. It's like, I have no idea who did it, but we'll change it back right away. No worries. Like,
yep. So,
have you had any opportunities to go collect? Just where, I mean, even in Illinois, there's good collection out there?
There's really not in Illinois. I have had the opportunity in Europe, and I almost had the opportunity in New Orleans, and I with Randy Bennett, who I'm sure you guys know. I mean, he's an expert on bald cypress. He's writing a book on it, and I really like Randy, and so he invited me to go. And then I was actually working at another bonsai person's private collection and just didn't get there. So I'm hoping, because they were threatening to get a refrigerator box for me so I could send one of these home to Chicago, and because there's a place, Hidden Gardens, right by me where they have a tremendous amount of collected Yamadori. And so I could have, overwintered it there, because my friend Jeff Schultz has got climate controlled greenhouses, and so we could have overwintered it there. So it's only a matter of time before I go bald cypress collecting, because I really want to have that opportunity. Randy has showed me, a tremendous amount of pictures of, some of the swamps that he's gone into and whatnot. And Mary actually also asked me, but at that point, she wasn't obviously up to it. But I'm really looking forward to having that opportunity, hopefully within this year or next year.
Yeah, the sooner the better with bald cypress, especially. Yeah, next time you're around, I mean, we could even get like Dawn's spot the spot that
told me
we were
where the
going
honey
to collect.
hole is. So I think she knows I'm no threat living in Chicago to the honey hole.
Yeah, she's very fond of that spot. When she showed me the spot that she collects from, I remember she might have done the same thing with you, and she just like rolled along the highway and she was like, there's one there's one there. She's like, look, you don't even have to go very far for that one. And yeah, her dedication and her amazement by bonsai, even though she already has so many great trees. And those are the kind of people I love to be around. But yeah, going out and collecting bald cypress is it's kind of a different experience. That's the kind of thing that I was saying, kind of envious, but not envious at the same time. I'm not too fond of heights or having to do something daring like scale a mountainside to go get a tree. But I guess if I want it bad enough, so yeah.
So Evan, do you have a favorite? I mean, you asked me that question of, do I have a favorite species that I love to work with? I mean, it sounds like buttonwood for sure, right?
Well, actually, I am the odd one out, where a lot of people will say, I've heard that. I've asked other professionals and other artists, what is your favorite species? And they kind of give a similar answer like you did. You're like, oh, well, it's the tree that I'm working on, and I don't really like to pick and choose because bonsai is bonsai. And I'm odd one out because I actually do have a core, like a cornerstone species. And it's actually winged elm, believe it or not.
Nice.
Very
nice.
Very straightforward, very, in my opinion, very down to earth, just kind of species. Because you can work with Chinese elms, you can work with Zelkova, but when it comes to American elms, they hit differently. I mean, obviously I'm kind of a southern, backwoods kind of guy, kind of thing experience, but I'm not like walking around with no shoes on or anything. But I do live in kind of the sticks of Louisiana, so they have a feeling to them that resonates really well with me. And I love some of their common names, such as witch broom or witch elm or wahoo.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting one for them.
Well, I got a wahoo at my house right now. When I was in Texas at the Texas show where I met you, I don't know, when was that, last year before?
Yep.
Ken Schindler, who's a collector, I got asked to do one for a demo, and I had Dawn help me on stage. It was a really big one. I was so psyched because I absolutely love that species. And I said to him, do you have any more of these things? And he was like, yeah, I got a truck full of them. I'm like, great, can I see the truck? So the back of the truck goes flying up, and Dawn and I started shopping. She actually outshopped me, but I got a really, really big, huge one, old one that's currently at my house, and I'm going to be repotting it coming up in the next week or two. So but really cool. I got a cedar, and I'm just gorgeous. The bark, and it's a big beast. So.
Yeah, I think I remember that tree. I think I remember watching it wheel out the door, and I was like, oh, someone's gonna have fun with that thing. But yeah, well, big trees. I mean, I was so into big trees for a little while. Now I'm starting to shrink down the size of the trees a lot, but I mean, everybody's got to have a good big tree in their collection, Speaking of, me and Carmen were joking about this on the previous episode. How's the weather? Because that comes up because you said you're going to be repotting your cedar elm soon.
Yeah.
So is that within the window is now, or I mean, I'm kind of ignorant to the Pacific North, to the I'm ignorant to the Midwest is what I want to say. Yeah.
Well, let me start by, we've had a good winter. It hasn't been minus 22 degrees like it has been in some years past. we haven't had a lot of snow. We only had one or two, maybe snowfalls at best. And today it's like maybe 40 degrees. And so the trees have been sleeping, but they're starting to wake up. And one of the hardest things in my area with new people is overwintering. That's probably the hardest, is
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get people in the hobby to successfully overwinter. That's the biggest challenge by far. Um, and so, some of my trees are at Hidden Gardens where, they are loving life in climate controlled greenhouses. Other trees, like the elm I talked to you about, that's actually in my garage and it
Mm-mm.
hasn't missed a beat. I talked to Ken about that and, it's in a massive tub, it's a big tree. And so,
Mm.
it's in whatever field soil he collected it in, and I got to get it out of there. And it's just starting to wake up right now. So,
Yeah.
which is typical for us. Repotting season is, end of March, maybe if we had a really mild winter to, all through April.
Yeah. And I remember talking to someone earlier today at my nursery about genetic codes with trees, about how they react, and where they're from is kind
Mm-hmm.
of going to be precedent for how they're going to react even in your zone.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a winged elm that was collected in Alabama. Ironically, we were talking about that earlier about Alabama, whatever. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it wakes up really late, and all my other trees are full leaf, and my bald cypresses all fire at different times because they also kind of have a little bit of a Louisiana regional area kind of thing, because close to where I'm at versus closer to the coast, they wake up at different times. And so my winged elm from Alabama, it doesn't really wake up until mid-April. And it's a little scary at times, but that's one of the things that I would be a little concerned about from such a, exactly where that cedar elm was collected. Did he tell you?
In Texas, yeah. I mean, he kind of, gave me an indication. I mean, with collectors, a lot of times they won't draw you a map, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He's a smart man. He's not gonna, pinpoint on the map. But yeah, and he didn't think it would miss a beat either. And the tree has absolutely not. It's just
Yeah.
trucking right along. So, I was concerned about that. And I do have some tropicals. Actually, a favorite of mine, I have a divvy
Hmm.
that I got at Weigert's that is, it holds its own and it does well for me. But, I'd be happy when that gets outside. So a little bit of a
Mhm.
different story than the elm, but I don't anticipate any problems with the elm.
Yeah, Divvy is not something that I've messed with a terrible amount, but I know
Old,
they're.
it's an old one, and it's one of my favorites. It has these kind of the leaves when they first emerge are like a copper color.
Hmm.
Ooh.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
from Aruba, originally found in nature.
oh
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not very familiar with those.
Yeah,
That's the
beautiful,
world of
beautiful park.
tropicals, especially Weigert's down in Fort Myers, where Mike learned. Um, the it's just the crazy amount of stuff that they bring in over there. I purchased a sea grape from there probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was actually collected in Puerto Rico. And I'm just like, like these trees really come a ways, and it's another naturally collected Yamadori type plant. It's kind of hard to call those trees Yamadori, but I get it, because I mean, Yamadori could also just be an older specimen plant for bonsai as well, but it definitely does have the features of it. For your divvy, and am I saying that right? Divvy?
Yeah, divvy
Yeah.
divvy. Yeah.
It doesn't sound real. It sounds a little more playful than some of the other more serious names that plants seem to have. Is it? You said it's an older plant. How big is it?
No, it's small. I want to say, maybe 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet at
Hmm.
most, literati. It has these really cool small little compound leaves. I knew I was in trouble when I went down to work in Florida and I hit Weigert's and it was like, okay, I'm gonna spend quite a bit of money here.
Yeah.
It's like impossible not to at Weigert's. I have to like stay away from Weigert's.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep. Anytime I go anywhere where anything bonsai or pot, anything, it's like, well, there
Yeah.
goes all of my money. Goodbye.
I mean, the pots he's got alone are to die
Oh
for.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
I might have to see if I can get Eric one day to talk with us, but his his imported bonsai pottery game is so strong. He has a really great eye for pottery. Just go ahead and shout out the Weigert, since we've talked about him for about a minute or two. You can go check out Weigert's Bonsai and go look at their website, go look at their pottery. Oh my gosh, dude, some of the most beautiful stuff. I've seen some of the stuff in person visiting down there, but he's always got some good stuff coming in.
Mhm.
yeah. He and Andrea are really nice people too. And, he's self-made. I mean, with that nursery, from the ground up. And I just think they're cool people and they got a great place. So what's not to love when you go there, right?
Mm-hmm. It's excellent. Excellent.
Mhm.
Anything else going on? So I know you're taking a short break, and then you said you're hoping to end up in Europe again.
I will. I'll be going back to Europe. Like I told you earlier, I was in Croatia in January, and that was pretty amazing. I'll go back there again, probably not till next January, but then I'll go to Munich. I'll spend some time with Walter in his
Mhm.
garden. And I'm headed out to California. I'll do a small tour out there. I'm going back to Texas again. I'll go to Pennsylvania. So I don't have my schedule in front of me, but lot of trips coming up. So
And I know that there's I was going to mention it for, where's my phone? For Boyd, which is actually one of our Bonsai Best Buds.
yeah,
He has you coming for what we call labs.
correct. In
And
October, I think. Yeah,
I think it's a little ways away.
it is. I think it's October. I don't have my date book in front of me, but yeah, I'm headed back down to Baton Rouge area.
Yep. And just to tell y'all a little bit about the show, it does pertain to Southeast area. Boyd wanted me to mention that it's the Louisiana Alliance of Bonsai Societies. It was first started back in 2002. Was formed by 5 bonsai societies in Louisiana who host the state meeting on a rotating basis. This sounds similar to the Lone Star group in Texas, honestly. This year it would be hosted in the Acadiana parishes, New Iberia, on Saturday, September 30th. So not October, but
Close
Sorry,
enough.
I will be there on September 30th.
But the Day of Bonsai includes local vendors, educational programs, a showcase of great bonsai trees that will be competing for the Von Banting Award. And he has mentioned on here that you'll be the featured guest. I don't know if there will be any other featured guests.
I hope so. It's always nice, when there's just more than one artist. And Evan, are you vending? Are you going to have a booth there? And
Yep, I will have a booth. I will have I'll probably have my usual. It's not going to really surprise anyone with the bald cypress, so I'm gonna have to try to switch it up a little bit when I bring stock over there. But yeah, that's usually a good time. I mean, I'd like to always kind of mention about local clubs. I know we talk about the national show every once in a while, or we'll talk about ABS, which, I mean, that's a big deal on its own. And then we also had Jonas's show that happened over in Oakland recently. Those are beautiful, big shows. But these smaller shows are very important, especially for our local and communities and whatnot, and especially regional stuff for, Louisiana and Texas and Florida have great regional shows for that. And I know the Portland area's got some good stuff. And is there anything going on as far as Illinois? Do y'all have any?
we do.
Yeah.
There are 2 bonsai clubs, and the Chicago Botanic Gardens as well. And so also there's the Hidden Gardens bonsai. And so both the Prairie State Bonsai Society has an annual show at the Morton Arboretum, and then the Chicago Botanic Gardens in also with the Midwest Bonsai Show in connection with hosts a national show that's the third weekend in August every year. And that's, quite a large show where people come, from all the surrounding states and go to a 3-day conference there. So
Awesome. Yeah.
Is that
it's all,
the
go ahead.
MABA? Is that the
that's not MABA.
That's a different
That's
one.
Mid-American Bonsai
Mid-American Bonsai.
Alliance.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's also Mid-Michigan. They're doing a show, and that's like in May.
hmm
And then Carmen, I was actually at your local Bonsai
Yeah.
last year, and
I
saw,
wanted to ask you about that.
yeah, it was really, really neat. And I met I can't think of his name offhand. Jack Weigel, is that his name?
Oh, Jack Weichel. Yeah.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
our volunteers, our
Yeah.
one of our Michigan bonsai gurus.
Yes, he had just had a birthday, and he was very excited about that. And so, but I saw the collection, and they're very excited that you're going to be coming back and going to work at some point, and they're hoping you come back.
That's the plan for right now. So
Yep. Yeah.
I think about them often, and I definitely am starting to miss that collection. It's hard to be away, and I'm still involved with it a little bit. I have a very small appointment still with the university, but it's so I'm in touch, and I see what's happening, and I hear the news, and I get questions, but it's not quite the same as being there. But I will be going back in June, the week after Denver. We're having the 10-year anniversary of that bonsai garden, and the dedication of the new donation from Dr. Goldstein. All of his azaleas will be like officially naming the garden, so it's going to be kind of a big to-do.
Those azaleas are quite impressive. I mean, I did
Oh
see
my.
a few of them, and that collection is really wonderful, along with the
Yeah.
Chicago Botanic Gardens. I mean, another really significant collection.
Yeah. It's I do really love working with azaleas. I have to say they probably are, if I have to pick a favorite, they're probably right up there.
Well, that's good, because you're going to have a lot of
I
them
know.
to work with.
I know. I'm like, there's like 4 of them here in Michael's yard, and I, get through them a couple times a year. And it's always like, oh, wow, that was a lot of work for 4, medium-sized azaleas. And I think back to what I've got back at that garden, just waiting for me, the one that's like in the bathtub-sized pot. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'm going to need some help. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're coming towards the end of our little discussion, end of the show here. Something that we've been kind of trying to keep up every week is just presenting a bonsai word of the week. So I like to go in and just find a word that, for the listeners, because this is kind of aimed towards beginner practitioners or people who are just trying to get a refresher. So our bonsai word of the week is uro. Y'all familiar with that word?
No. I'm learning so much, Evan. What is it?
I know.
Like, uh-oh.
I'm over here just.
I thought you were going to say like repot, like it's repotting season.
No.
He's always whipping out some kind of Japanese. I don't know what he's.
Yeah, I'm over here just like the fun fact, the buzzkill thing that comes at the bottom of the screen. It's like, did you know? And people are like, I'm not even looking. Stop it. No, an uro is a hollow section of the trunk. Usually indicating a hollow that would be seen on deciduous trees. So when the wood is completely rotted away and the cambium has rolled inwards and has made a more of what in Japanese bonsai culture would be referred to as a owl hole. So a hole in a tree that would appear to have some kind of residence. So not resident, like an echo. No, like a resident. Like a squirrel, and also I guess if the squirrel didn't make noise, he would produce resonance inside of there. So
this is kind of cool. I have a beech tree that I'm actually going to donate. My first tree that I'll ever donate to the Chicago Botanic Gardens.
Yay,
awesome.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. My friend Chris Baker really loves the tree, and so it has not woken up yet. The buds look phenomenal, but beech wake up really, really late.
Ours still hasn't woken up either, and I'm mostly done with repotting, and that thing it's been in the greenhouse. It's still just sitting there.
Well,
Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, so to make a long story short, when I was in Sweden, Thor Hullava made a pot for me for the tree. And so I'm going to bring it up to Chicago Botanic Gardens. And I will ask my friend Chris Baker, the curator there, if he knows what would you say it was, an arrow?
An euro.
An arrow
Uro.
is, because that
URO.
tree has a definite arrow in it. And I'll say, what do you think of the arrow in this tree, Chris? And see.
And he'll go, it's really good. It's really
Yeah.
great.
Really funny. But that's cool. Now I can actually, put a word with what I have there. That's
Yeah.
neat.
So
Yeah.
every once in a while, we like to kind of brush up on these words because
Yeah.
we really, I mean, we honor the Japanese way of approaching bonsai a lot, and a lot of these words are made just for these features of bonsai. Like they have no other word in their language that they've created to represent the poetic features and qualities of bonsai trees. So it helps us look at the trees differently. It helps us talk with our other bonsai friends and other practitioners and just kind of bounce ideas and be like, oh, well, if you lose that branch, you could create an arrow or a hollow space that represents something that actually does happen in nature.
And maybe if you're lucky, you'll get a tree frog that takes up residence in your euro.
There you go. I like that.
We've had that happen here before. It's very cute.
I actually, in a lot of bald cypress, like whenever I do that first carve and it starts to roll really heavily and I get that big callus formation at the nursery, for some reason, I have a lot of gray tree frogs and just your regular green tree frog. They'll just hang out in that spot.
They love it.
That's their favorite place to be. It's cool. There's a lot of little bugs trying to get away from the heat under there. So yeah. Sorry to tell you that. I'm already over here living a dream of
tell me all
tree
about
frogs
all of the animals in your bonsai garden. That's what I'm really here for.
I do want to mention one resident at my nursery that is pretty interesting. Is a ribbon snake.
Ooh, okay, cool.
And he
Where does
crawls
live?
in the canopies of the bald cypresses.
Oh man, I love it when snakes live in canopy. It's so creepy and like you don't expect it, and then there's a snake.
Oh yeah, it surprised me a good number of times, and he loves tree frogs. And and I would probably say it's probably a female, so I would say she, because she's definitely got a nest somewhere underneath the building that we work out of. But I mean, she's got to be about a little bit bigger than a pencil as far as girth wise.
That's cool.
And she's like 2 feet long. I mean, she's a pretty big snake, but when you first see her, you're like, oh crap, and you're like, oh wait, that's just a ribbon snake. It's no big deal, but it's
Please
always
take video and send it to me.
Yeah, you got a mascot now.
Yeah. I'm just scared that one day somebody's gonna be back there perusing trees and they're gonna be picking through branches, and then this snake's gonna like literally just kind of, because they're fast. It's just, I always have to warn people. I'm like, look, we're kind of out in the countryside, especially where Folsom, Louisiana is. It's very Folsom. It's very country. Yeah, there's a lot of snakes, a lot of frogs. Paper wasp nests get up inside of our trees sometimes. It's the wild southeast of of the bonsai world. It feels like sometimes, but I mean, yeah, critters and bonsai trees are fun. Especially when birds come and give you a visit and land on a branch. It's always a great moment. But
so Evan, you know who Nick Lenz is, of course, right?
Oh yeah,
was right. So he used to make. Jim Doyle has a few of these, but he used to make like snakes out of clay, because he's such an amazing potter as well as a bonsai artist, and he would like hang them from his trees.
That's so cool.
Isn't that cool?
It was kind of like pushing the limits a little bit as far as what sculptural things would be like appropriate for bonsai design with him.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the snake thing was just kind of almost like a gag, like just to kind of freak people out, or
I don't know. He was kind of known for being quirky, and so maybe or maybe he just one day saw a snake in a tree and got inspired and started. You never know, right? But
his work is so fun.
I saw a bonsai artist that I think was supposed to be working under him and has kind of taken a lot of inspiration from his style. And I think there was a lot of larch that Nick Lenz used. And this one guy who's using larch, and he put these Teletubbies, these like little Teletubby figures, probably like 3 inches tall, in a circle around it, facing outwards. And I think it was the yellow one. And I was like, that actually, it's creepy as hell, but it actually kind of works. It's got like this weird surrealistic vibe to it.
Mhm.
That's just, it's out there.
Strange.
Yeah, it's the only thing you can say. If you look at it and be like, wow, that is very odd. That's strange. Okay.
That's why bonsai is a subjective art, right? I mean, but it made you think, it made you talk. So hey,
yeah,
There you
it
go.
makes you look again, and you're like, wait, there might be something here, or this might just be insanity. It's art now. So, but that definitely could be a revisit later on for another one of our episodes. As we talk, we kind of give ourselves some thoughts to think of for later on. Pop bonsai has always been interesting to me, and Carmen apparently.
I hate the term pop bonsai, but
there
what
is
does the term pop bonsai mean? I'm not as familiar with that as
Like,
you guys are.
trendy or
very playful designs.
Like the whole bonsai tray hanging upside down, that sort of thing.
maybe kind of like cutesy or
Yeah. Okay. So here's my speech on that. Bonsai is a subjective art, but there's a difference between art and kitsch. There's a huge difference.
I agree.
Kitsch?
I just don't like the word pop because I feel like it trivializes some of the like more modern expression of bonsai that is actually interesting and good, and it puts it in that kitschy category.
Yeah.
So
I get it now.
that's where my issue with the word, but it's semantics for me.
Yeah.
I can give you an example of kitsch, Evan, if that's like a weird word to use. Like I was at a bonsai show one time and somebody had a forest, but a lot of the trees were dead. And their thing was that, there was like a forest fire. I stood there looking at it going, but those are clearly dead, right? Like I kind of get what you were going for, but it didn't really work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And in that sense, it was, it's like you're trying to be clever to be clever.
Yeah.
Clever for clever's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Was Nick Lenz trying to be clever, hanging snakes in the tree? Probably not. From everything I've heard about Nick, he probably just, that was what he felt like one day, and so he just did it.
Yeah.
The thing with his art, when you look through, of course, now, now the books are, it's several years ago, right? That he, that book was out. But when you look at his art, it's not kitsch. I mean, there's actual artist, there's such artistry there and playfulness that really works.
Yeah. I can see it. It's more art for art's sake.
Yes.
And less convention, for sure.
Right.
So, but yeah, see, that's why we bring up these bonsai words of the day or words of the week, so that we can get into long tangents and just keep going. But anyway, yeah, we're right at the end here. So thanks for joining us, Jennifer. It's always
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I had a great time hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a new voice on the podcast, and just to hear what other people are doing out there in the world of bonsai. So, for the listeners, thanks for listening again to Little Things for Bonsai People. And Carmen, you always have your thing that you say.
Hold on, I forgot what it was. Oh,
it's
remember.
your saying.
Hold on, no, I got it. Remember, it's the little things.